All right, I'm going to call our village board meeting for August 16, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Nyla Fry,
Here.
Phil Williams,
Here.
Bill Ranum,
Here.
Chris Zellner,
Here.
Aaron Moran, Sam Kaufman.
Here.
Gary Hersberg.
Here.
Okay, first item we have is confirmation of open meeting compliance, public postings, official notices, and online availability.
I can confirm that the agenda was posted online last week in compliance with state and local laws.
Thank you.
As well as on our public posting places.
Thank you. All right, next is consent agenda. Would anybody like anything pulled or look for a motion?
I move to approve items 1 through 2 of the consent agenda.
Motion by Nyla Fry,
Second.
second by Sam Kaufman. Was it Sam?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other comments? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to make any comments for anything on the agenda this evening, on or off? Dodd, go ahead.
I'd offer one, again, I enjoy adding a bit of good news. I'd like to share with all of you a voicemail I got last week. Hopefully you get picked up on this, but I think it's something that we hear often this time of year, and you'll know what I mean.
Yes, good afternoon. You don't need to get back to me. I just wanted to tell you that I drove through Wanakee a couple of weeks ago. I'm from that area originally, but I was down for doctor's appointments, and I was driving through Wanakee, and I just wanted to let you know how welcoming the city, the town looked with all your plants. I thought it was just beautiful, and it just was welcoming. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you, nice job. Okay, bye.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, Todd.
Yep, good job.
Yes,
Whoops,
good
sorry.
afternoon.
I just enjoyed
You
listening
don't need
to
to get
it.
back to me.
All day long. Background.
So-
When he's feeling down, he turns that.
It's my ringtone. Well, I was gonna say kudos to Bill and his crew, and frankly, kudos to the group of citizens and businesses and board members who were part of the planning 15 whatever years ago that led us to create what is our downtown now, to the point where we get calls like that almost routinely because of how our downtown looks and feels. So
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Todd. All right, I'm gonna move on then, since I don't see anybody else that wants to speak. We have our,
Crick, you did have one written.
oh, that's right, sorry, thank you. 2 minutes I have, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna do my best to get done in 2 minutes. This is from Linda Ashmore. She sent it to Caitlin Steen today. She says, "Hi, Caitlin, could you read this public comment for me, please? Thanks and have a great day. Hi, I'm sharing my thoughts on the ARPA funding, which was voted on last month. 1, thank you for voting to fund the food pantry and WNC requests. Those are the people who have been hit hardest by the pandemic. 2, I don't think the allocation of $150,000 to upgrade AV equipment for hybrid meetings is a good use of the money. There are usually less than 10 non-board members attending meetings, and I don't think that number increased with the online meetings. It seems like a large amount of money that will benefit a very few. If the board does go forward, I am asking the project will be bid out. I have only heard about AVI's proposals, and this is a large dollar amount. 3, the proposed $50,000 chamber advertising campaign is also something I don't think is wise use of the money. The chamber and village partnered for the Wanakee Beat Scout video, and it had a large viewership, but there was no way to track if those viewers relocated or visited Wanakee. I've heard that not all businesses in town benefited from the GOAT campaign, and even though the videos were cute, what were the measurable results? I would prefer that if the board wants to help businesses, they allocate that $50,000 directly to businesses through an application process. If the board votes to allocate money for a marketing campaign, I'd like to see a measurable results as well as a bidding process. 4, a community pool has been talked about for decades, since the money should be spent on infrastructure tourism. Maybe some of the remaining money could be used for seed money for a community pool. I still think a pool should go to referendum, but I could get behind $150,000 going towards a pool, which would benefit a large number of people. I took my kids and my restaurant dollars to Middleton and Sun Prairie pools, so there is a tourism benefit that could result from a community pool. And 5, another possible use for the funding is road repairs. I've walked down West 3rd Street for years, and every year there is a patch job that quickly deteriorates. Other streets in the older areas such as Patrick, Prospect, and part of Verleen also have issues. It would be good to properly fix some of those older streets. Other infrastructure needs I see are adding better street drainage to areas where sump pumps run constantly and burying power lines. Thank you for listening. Linda Ashmore.
With 5 seconds to go, that was pretty good.
Wow, good job.
Okay, oxygen? No, I'm good. All right. Thanks, everybody. New business. First item is discuss and take action on banking bid proposals. So I have sat out and recused myself from all discussions with this with regards to Renee and Phil and Nyla. So I'm going to recuse myself, leave the room, and who do we want to designate to run the meeting?
I think the one thing also to note, just in terms of your involvement or lack of involvement in the process, even preparation of the RFP, all elements of staff work in prepping this item for the board, we had no engagement with Chris in the process.
Correct.
Perfect. So could I have somebody nominate somebody to chair?
Nominate Phil Willems, Chair.
Second.
Motion by Gary, second by Bill.
Thank you.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, just give me a second.
Okay, the Finance Committee met with Renee. We met individually, one at a time with her, and she brought everything all together, gave us all the proposals she got. 4 banks responded. 2 of them were fairly close after it was all done. That would have been Wanakee Community Bank and One Community Bank. We penalized.
Sorry, one community bank and State Bank across the
I'm
Plains,
sorry.
I think you meant to say.
Wanakee Community Bank, I keep calling them by their old name. Bank of Wanakee. I'm sorry, Bank across Plains, Wanakee, and One Community Bank, thank you. They were both fairly close, although One Community Bank met a little bit more of all the requirements, like for example, State Bank across Plains did not have the reloadable police cards we had needed.
Can I interrupt? I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
understand what the police card was. What is it?
It's a card that the
They
police,
use it-
it's like a charge card, like a gift card.
For their uniforms.
Oh, okay,
So
sorry.
instead of having to seek reimbursement for the uniform purchases, they have a set amount per year, and it's on a reloadable card.
Okay,
And that just simplifies the process
Sure.
for them.
yep, thank you.
Okay, so anyway, it was not a great big thing, but in the end, we tried to penalize Wanakee Community Bank a little bit because one of our members is on there, but after all things done.
Joking.
Pardon me?
You jest.
After looking at everything, the estimated annual interest from One Community Bank was $25,855. The next closest was about 15,000. Yeah, it's estimated annual interest of 15,000. So the $10,855 tipped my vote in favor of One Community Bank. Naima, what would you like to say about that?
You said it all. Does Renee have anything to add?
Nope, I would just say, we did send the RFP out to all the 7 institutions that are within the Wanakee limits. And the 4 that I summarized here are the 4 that returned proposals. But everybody had the opportunity to propose on it.
Chris. Gary.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the banking service proposal from One Community Bank.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
And maybe before we move on, I want to note that the last time we did that, the proposal was, what was it, 3
years ago.
3 years ago. There were elements in our process, in our policy for approving an institution that actually made it difficult for some of the local institutions. We made a modification in this year's process so as to make it really to urge local participation. I think that was a good move on our part. I think that says a lot about our commitment to the local banking institutions here, and I'm glad we did. Looking forward to working with One Community Bank.
May I say thank you?
Yeah, feel free to please introduce yourselves.
So I'm Steve Piotr. I'm President and Chief Executive Officer of One Community Bank, and with me is my colleague Liz Dice. Liz oversees she's our Chief Experience Officer, which helped put together the proposal for our partnership together. So we just came tonight to answer any questions that you had, but also just say how excited we are with the opportunity to be the bank for the village of Wanakee. We're excited about it. We appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for letting me say a few words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Tim, would you mind getting Chris for us?
And,
Thanks.
yeah, wave the local boy back in.
we had Tim positioned perfectly to help with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't that why he's here? Just to be the retriever?
that's it, exactly.
Make a motion to demote Phil now.
Yeah,
And
prob-
Chris,
probably
they
a
terminated
motion to-
my contract.
Do we have
That
to
fast.
do we take a motion to remove him? Is that what?
Yeah, I think so.
I have a motion to remove Phil as the chair.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gone. Sorry, Phil.
That was gone 2 minutes.
I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did.
Thank you, Earl.
Take care.
you.
We'll see you again.
All right. Next, we're at our discuss and take action on proposed amendment to approved employee COVID emergency sick leave policy. Todd?
Yep, thanks. So in your packet, Caitlin had put together a cover memo, and then there was a memo from our labor attorney, Steve Zock, in relation to our emergency sick leave policy and some changes that we proposed, and that draft modified policy is also included in your packet. So, you know, looking around the world, we've seen some very interesting approaches that different employers are taking to address the status of employees within their organization and their care in approaching matters related to COVID. There's a lot of examples actually right here in our area with major employers making vaccination a condition of employment. That isn't suggested with this policy, although we are suggesting a few tweaks that that I think you'd recognize do play out to urge vaccination. So one thing that we did at the beginning of the pandemic was created a bank of extra sick leave related to COVID-related illnesses. And that was actually came down from the feds that we implemented, and we retained that after the federal policy lapsed. We still have that on the books technically. According to the policy, it sits on our books until either there's the COVID fear is lifted and we can be free, or December 31st of this year, whichever comes first. So that's how the policy is currently written. What we're recommending in this policy change is that policy remain available for employees who are vaccinated. For employees who are not vaccinated, and I'll be honest, we have a couple 10 or so, maybe plus or minus, that we know of, that they would not be eligible for that extra bank of sick leave. It doesn't take away the fact that they're able to make use of their existing sick leave allocation, as well as their bank of sick leave or any other accumulated leave that they have, as well as apply family medical leave to that usage. So there's still, it's not that they can't take sick leave, it's the source, it's the bank that they utilize that from. So that is a change to the policy. We would also note that we're suggesting very clear language that non-vaccinated employees be absolutely required to wear masks and practice social distancing while in enclosed spaces at the work environment. I would note, though, that even in Village Hall, we've already made modifications to our internal policy here that staff, when interacting with the public out in open spaces, we are masking up more than we did in that sort of in-between time before the Delta variant got cranking. So we've made some of our own adjustments. Other village departments have as well. But this requirement is specific as a job requirement for a job task and expectation of non-vaccinated employees. So that's kind of the gist of the tweaks we're suggesting. Happy to answer questions. This has been flown by the village's department head team. I'll say generally at our last department head team meeting, all hands went up in terms of the team suggesting that this seems to be an appropriate approach. Not too much, not too little, but something to address the message of the policy.
Board members' comments, Bill? I think you're a good one to start.
Yeah, so as far as our people that are facing the public, our police and, I guess, front desk, that's the primary group, right? Do we know their statistics? Are they highly vaccinated?
I believe our building is fully vaccinated, this whole building. And
The library, I think, as well.
That's my
I think
understanding.
the library, Village Center, the vast majority.
Public Works is.
Public Works, the vast majority. So, yeah, so those very public facing, like those sort of situated in those areas, they are.
Police?
Police is the department with the worst percentage of vaccinated employees. I believe we have 6 sworn who have chosen not to be vaccinated. My understanding, all for different reasons, but that's the current situation.
So are they, right now, are we having them full-time masks and testing? Is there a testing
So-
protocol in this or not?
There's no testing protocol suggested. Some employers have gone to that length. We're not suggesting it in our policy. We can certainly discuss that as a requirement if you care to. But the police department has kept in place, they haven't removed the masking requirement when an officer is engaging with a resident or on scene with members of the public. They haven't stopped masking up in those circumstances.
So I think you have to have testing if you're gonna have optional, masking. I get that we're masking, but the case of Mr. Treadwell, you don't have, whether the mask is on or off, right? You're in a situation where you don't have a choice at times.
Right, there's no legal precedent to that would say that that's a problem. In other words, if the board cares to incorporate that as a parameter within the policy, you can add that element to the policy.
Almost everywhere else, I think it is, that I know of. If you're not vaccinated, you're tested once or
And
twice.
again, if the board would like to go down the route, in fact, Bill, with you here, if you'd have advice on the frequency of testing, we'd be willing to
Yeah.
abide by
Do we have a
that.
contract already? Do we have a contract for testing with the village? So usually it's twice a week. Because that's the ratio, the timeline for transmission is usually the 3 days process.
Yeah, I don't think we have a contract per se with any party, although the availability of it testing is so easy for
It's very high.
anyone.
I know it's a pain, but I just feel like we would probably carry liability if you don't test somebody and they show up after a police stop and have a problem now. The Delta variant is obviously a problem in that it's so contagious. It's not that it's necessarily worse when you get it, but it is probably several times more contagious than the others.
Yeah, I'll just add that the notion of testing and the employee perception or the feedback we might hear from those who are unvaccinated is not something I have weighed with the department head team. Not that has to be something that you wait for, but I just can't tell you anecdotally what we think that particular requirement will be in terms of staff reaction. But Bill, I totally understand, and yes, I've heard of many other employers who have made similar requirements.
Bill, how long does it take to turn around a test?
About less than a day now, 6 hours now about.
Okay. Because I've seen every week or every other week testing required. I haven't seen where they've done it twice a week.
Yeah, it's SSM, will be twice a week.
Oh, really? Wow.
But that's healthcare, but in a way,
Yeah.
the police, to me, the police are, and EMS and everybody else, you're quickly engaged, let's put it that way, quickly engaged. And you can't debate whether you're gonna be involved with somebody.
I wouldn't mind seeing testing once a week if someone isn't vaccinated. If, Bill thinks that's a logical thing to do.
Twice a week?
I would just do once a week. I think twice gets to be.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, that's what ours, in healthcare, we're doing twice a week. Just because the timeline for transmission is about a 3-day issue, so.
I've seen businesses that have put stuff in place, but it's never been more than once a week. And I think it was every other week in some cases, I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, that's all, I mean, you're basically there, I mean, you're not really fighting transmission there, you're making somebody do it, because it's irritation, right? The testing thing. I get both sides, I get the weekly one, and I'm sure I don't know what their shifting is, if they're on 4 10-hour days or something, then probably getting tested once in that is reasonable, but if they're on 5 days,
I believe they work 4 11-hour days, and then the next week, like 3 11-hour days.
Then I can make the case, I mean, back to your.
I can't guarantee that, but that's generally how the payroll is.
Right, 'cause
So-
that, to me, you would be tested on the first day of your cycle, of your 4-day cycle. That's how I would do it.
Now, don't get me wrong, there are other departments with employees unvaccinated. I can mention, the senior center, utilities. It's not just police, so this requirement will span to other departments as well. I think that's what you'd
So
expect.
partially my frustration, right, I mean, overall, cause all these people that are showing up saying, I didn't think I would get it, like, right. I mean, you didn't because somebody else got it before you got it, and you didn't have an opportunity to not get it. I mean, and I know it's partially just me being irritated by the process of what our communities, not our community so much. I mean, we have a very high vaccination rate in the community. We have segments that have gone without.
Well, you've got a couple questions. One, add in a testing requirement. Question 1. Question 2 would be the frequency. And then the other questions I would have would be, I assume you'd be favorable to that being allowed to be done on village time? Or must it be done on private time? I would think we'd accommodate it during working schedules. I think that's and any cost would be covered by the village, but there's so many free resources to get the testing done. I would assume we'd utilize those.
Could we connect with some like testing partners where it would be, easy for them to go through Hometown or Walgreens?
It is quite easy. It's online. It's quite easy now. My wife checked, did a thing on the computer to
Yeah.
Hometown in less than half a day she was in.
I guess like if we're gonna be sending a bunch of people there, like I guess maybe set up some, I don't know.
Which is a good idea. I think it'd be worth making a call and seeing if we could get arrangements set.
I just think like even like the overnight, police or if something like that, I wouldn't want someone not to be able to find one or spend 4 hours, looking for.
So, okay, so what I'm hearing is, well, I better make sure, I haven't heard from all the board members, but some sort of testing could be done. Whether it's once a week or twice a week, we can figure that out. And then we can do it on village time. And there's different options that we could have that you can reach out to. I think there's a woman, you might know, they've figured out the rapid test where they can come mobily.
Yeah, I know that there's all sorts of,
There's a lot of them available to us, so I'm sure we could get that done in a cost-effective manner.
Costless manner.
Cost-effective is cost less, too.
for
So,
your village time, I mean, is it whatever, that's where transporting to the people might be worth it.
correct. So, that's one issue. Does anybody else have anything else, though, with regards to the policy, outside of that particular thing? So I actually have one question. So number 3, receiving the COVID-19 vaccine is not a condition of employment, but employees who have not been vaccinated will be required to wear a mask while at work and practicing social distancing. So, right now in the room, we have 4, 5 village staff that have their masks on. So if I'm in the public and I come in, am I assuming that you have not been vaccinated at this point?
That sort of changed with the Delta thing recently. I mean, we sort of mask now more than, if I'm in a
I get
closed
it.
space, yeah.
I get it.
I
What
get
I'm
you, we're
getting
talking
at-
about the language.
I'm thinking if I'm part of the public and I come in and everybody's in masks, does that mean, because we're putting a policy in specific to say if they're not vaccinated? So if they're having a mask on, does it mean that you
Well,
are
remember,
vaccinated or not vaccinated to the public? I'm just asking the question
Yeah,
based on how it's worded, that's all.
I think in relation to how this applies to unvaccinated, this is a very clear delineation. I'll say that at least in this building, when we engage the public, we now have updated our policy to wear masks whether we're vaccinated or not. The police department, when engaging the public, haven't not worn masks since the pandemic started. So every officer, when engaging the public, is gonna be masked and has been. So I see your point and perception.
I'm just trying to act like a person of the public that's coming in. We put a policy in place that says it's not a condition of employment, but employees who have not been vaccinated will be required to wear a mask. But if we're having people wear masks, then I'm just saying it's a confusing thing in my view. But if everybody's good with it, then everybody's good with it. I see that as something that's confusing.
I mean, there may be language within the policy itself about masking and being encouraged. In each department, we left it up to each department because operations are a little unique in each department and how we engage the public. Here in this building, it is a requirement today that employees wear a mask when engaging with a member of the public.
But that's
Regardless
different than what the policy is stating.
Yeah.
No,
It's just like an extra, it kind of seems like.
There's
yeah, so we're,
those who have not been vaccinated will be required. But if I'm vaccinated, do I have to? But now you're saying we're gonna require the
Well,
ones that are vaccinated.
well, for example, where employees in this building don't have to wear a mask is when,
Behind the plexiglass.
when there's no customer interaction or they're in their own, if Tim's in his office, he can take his mask off unless a member of the public enters his office for a meeting.
Okay.
And that's,
So he's required to wear a mask then?
and that's a unique policy to this building, just like the Village Center and Senior Center have unique policies there too.
Okay, I just think the wording is not good and I think it's very confusing.
So the Village Center and the other, they're setting their own policies?
We, in addition to our COVID, our main arching COVID policy, different work sites can impose even more restrictive requirements depending on the nature of their work.
More restrictive.
Right.
Does that say that somewhere?
By practice, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, probably should be in there.
I think what's catching you, Chris, is maybe the language Caitlin chose in crafting the memo. I think that section of the policy itself,
Well, based on what this is showing though, Todd, and what we're approving, if Tim is working here and he's vaccinated, he's gonna be like, well, the policy says I've been vaccinated. I'm not required to wear a mask.
Tim, are you required to wear a mask when you're with the public? Sorry, I'm putting him on the spot.
Generally, that's been our practice. If we're interacting with the public in our space, yes.
Well, and even more,
Generally, other than that, no.
right, and that, more than a practice, that is a internal building policy that I issued for this building space, probably 2 weeks ago, when we made some updates to our expectations here in this building.
So then why are we voting on something if you're implementing something different than what's on this paper?
What you're voting on is, I guess I would call it sort of our base, well, this is the emergency sick leave policy that you're voting on.
I think Todd is just saying there's different policy for each building based on the interaction with the public.
But this document covers everyone.
Okay, question. The part that says, but employees who have not been vaccinated will be required to wear a mask while at work and practice social distancing. Could you add at all times? Would that clarify it or make it more complicated?
I believe that is what it means. I'm going down to look at the, I mean, the policy really has more to do, frankly, with the way we're utilizing the sick leave.
So that's why I'm wondering, should it be written as, does the other stuff separate? That's what I think, to partially, like, here's what we're doing to the sick leave. Are we gonna be able, is this too wide to include the mask mandates and such, or requirements, when really we're saying, this is what happens if you get COVID? To me, it's like, this is what you're saying, you get COVID, you're on your own from here on out. And or you're on your own sick time, correct?
Right, or other leave, vacation, what have you.
Right, on your other leave, and we're just sort of throwing a bunch of other stuff into that, whereas if I was writing, I'd say, this is what goes with COVID. You're not vaccinated, or we don't have evidence of your vaccine, then you are basically on your sick leave. Or your current sick leave, you don't get the extra 2 weeks that we would ask. So is that wrong? Is that, because that just narrows it to this is what the COVID leave is, instead of including all the other.
Yeah, it looks like there is a, it looks like there was an added paragraph, the very last page of your packet, at the very bottom, there's a bold paragraph. And I'm speculating that this was in addition to the policy, which perhaps isn't necessary within this policy statement. And that's the paragraph where it basically replicates the language Chris, that you read, where we encourage all employees to receive the vaccine. Receiving the vaccine is not a condition of employment, but employees who have not been vaccinated will be required to wear a mask while at work and practice social distancing.
So, all right, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm also saying if Tim, who's vaccinated, is sitting in his office and you come and say, Tim, you need to be wearing, because you had somebody in your office, a mask, you're required. This document says he's not required because he's vaccinated.
But your managers, your building managers do have the ability to implement building workspace rules.
So
So,
what I'm saying is, by you doing that,
yes.
Tim could sit, and I'm sorry I'm using your example, you're the only
Yeah,
person.
here you are. Don't, step outside. It's your safety zone.
What would be Tim's discipline if he chose not to? What would you have? Because he could just pull this out and say, it says right here, I'm vaccinated, I don't have to do it.
I could give you a number of reasons why that would be discipline worthy. Violation of work rules established by a manager, disobeying management requirements. It would be a matter of discipline.
Okay, I mean, Steve Zock signed off, he's our labor attorney, so if he, I mean, I just see us as having vulnerability there, but, okay.
I mean, if you want
Is there a way to have somebody fix that? I mean.
Take it out.
well, you can strike that
I mean, By
paragraph.
striking it out, that's what I mean by, shouldn't we just, if it's not necessary to the process, and you're already doing it, it's redundant, and then take it out so it doesn't cause confusion.
Yeah.
That doesn't concern me if it is confusing being there.
The number 3 part is, I think it's good to have it at the end, that we're strongly encouraging the employees. And that's all, I mean, I would just use that sentence.
That's to receive the vaccine. So you're saying leave that sentence,
The Village of Wanakee strongly encourages all employees to receive the COVID-19 vaccine,
period.
period.
So with that said, in your motion, you could consider, with the addition of a testing requirement, if that's desired by the board, you could then also suggest striking the final sentence of the policy.
Are we testing
Well,
everybody or just
Well,
non-vaccinated?
here's the problem, if you already have, what's that, I'm sorry.
Are we testing everybody or just non-vaccinated?
We were just doing non-vaccinated.
Okay.
That's how we're doing it.
Okay,
But maybe that becomes the policy, and this is just about sick, I'm just talking again, causing more trouble, but is this just about the sick leave thing, and leave it at that, and then have to deal with the other?
Because I think, don't we have another policy that talks about some of the other
Causing more trouble.
no, I mean, it would be clarity on this
requirements?
for
Yeah,
employees.
that we've issued,
for sure.
that we've issued by
Versus the
management.
sick leave.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but am I by adding that testing thing into this policy, is that a separate thing? I mean, are we asking, I mean,
I think we're stating the expectations, and we need to list all the expectations, including testing in this.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea what you said. I'm good with having the strongly encourages and then having the testing we can have for non-vaccinated.
I'm good with that, I just don't want to.
Phil?
Where do they go to get tested now? And how long are how long are they allowed to be on the village business going somewhere to get tested?
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about, having a mobile thing to come to us. That might make sense for us. It's gonna be cheaper and it's gonna be more efficient.
Yeah,
for
that
us.
guy did put a presentation at Rotary, 2 weeks ago? But did he have the truck yet, or no? But all they gotta do is be there somewhere, and everybody that's not vaccinated would appear at this place at the same time and get there.
Whatever the tower the test is on.
I mean, I wouldn't wanna take a cop out of service for 3 hours while he picked his own spot somewhere in
Go to
Madison to
Monona,
go
get a
do.
nice spot on Monona Drive. And then-
Yeah, and then come back.
That's what I was saying earlier too, like, and are we like having them bring it, like, who is then collecting negative results, or is there, like, do we need, you know, is it just honor like, I guess it's,
Yeah, and that's something we would coordinate with HR to do
Is it-
appropriately.
okay.
Because they can do their own tests, can't they?
Mhm,
But, yeah. And then seal it, the thing, and turn it in right in front of somebody, and one person could take them all to the lab, or,
Yeah, seriously, if you had the right thing, you could just walk in.
The-
Every spot.
There's a lot of options. I guess I would ask to allow the departments to work with their team to coordinate responsible approaches to the testing. Again, we've got 2 pharmacies in town, maybe another source. Maybe an employee would rather go to their care provider in between where they live and where they work, off of village time. We're not saying they can't do it off of village time. We're just saying we would allow it on village time if they care to have the test done at that point. So, and then you have the do it through the mail option. Not as rapid, but
Takes a while.
Okay, so I'm in favor of scratching number 3. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but I'm in favor of scratching number 3. I'm in favor of adding the Village of Wanakee strongly encourages.
Which number 3, sorry?
First page 15.
Okay, not the second.
oh, you're looking at the memo.
Receiving
that it?
COVID-19. That number 3 under issue summary.
Which is basically reference to the last sentence in the policy.
Okay, not the, like, someone that has to quarantine in the policy?
No.
Okay.
No, just taking number 3 out, that wordage, just putting the Village of Wanakee strongly encourages all employees to receive COVID-19 vaccine, and then adding in the portion of testing that will be required to be tested. Those that are not vaccinated required to be tested once or twice a week, whatever we come.
Once a week. That's-
Once a week. Then the village will have designated spots within the village. If they want to do it on their own time, they can go somewhere else to have it done, something along those terms.
Yep, that is clear enough to me to implement it.
But everybody else, that's just how I feel about
That's
this.
how I feel about it.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Bill?
that's what I was hoping for.
Okay, so I'm gonna make that motion then, to approve this policy with that language in that spot for number 3.
I'll second.
And we have a second. All right, any other comments? And I will say thanks you for bringing this to us,
Yeah, thank you.
staff, to getting this going, and I think everything else looks really good with it, so. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Adjourn. I just didn't want in case there was some.
Motion by Bill, second by Sam.
Sure like the joy that comes through your voice.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
One thing I didn't do is-
Thank you.
Ayes have it. Thanks, everybody.